So, thank you very much for coming to my presentation today. I'm very happy to be here, especially also because I grew up in this little town here many, many years ago. So it's always good to come home. I want to talk about adaptive Lidar and also in the context of adaptive sensors in general, because also we at AEye, we believe that sensors need to adapt also to unforeseen, let's say, use cases requirements in the future. Maybe a few words as well to AEye. AEye, we are a Lidar technology provider. Basically, we have created a very unique technology, also software adaptable. And our company is located in the Bay Area, San Francisco. And I'm the representative for AEye in Europe. Before I go into the technical details here, let's first talk about why do we need adaptability. And that is also a question you always get, why do we need self-driving cars, software-defined cars, and so on. I mean, if you look at the overall evolution, sure, our way of living always changed, but even looking back 50 years ago, and when you look back 50 years ago, you see that in those days now we commute much more. Why? Because we want to live where we like to live and not live anymore where we work. And that brings us then also to the traffic that we have increased here. Also, we do more business travels than 50 years ago, and also deliveries. I mean, if I look in my neighborhood on a daily basis, I see at least 5 delivery cars in every hour. So that means we have much more traffic, yeah? And we also see that in the number of traffic participants. And looking at the projections, and I found this nice study here, or graph, we see that in between 2015 and 2040, the projection is that the number of passenger vehicles will double, as well as the number of trucks will double. And that means, as well again, we see more complexity in traffic, and we will even see situation, use cases, and so on, that we even don't know in those days. And that also requires for the vehicles to be more complex. I mean, I'm not telling you all new things, but I see that always in the whole eco center. And even here, I looking at this on the infotainment side or on the cockpit side. How did the cockpits change in the last 50 years? 50 years ago, we actually only had maybe like speedometer and information for how much gas do I have. And now we got then all this connectivity, Wi-Fi, and so on. We got additional applications, like many cars have the navigation system right now in there as a standard application. And same happens as well with the sensors. Yeah? And looking at, if you look at the bottom left picture from your side, you see the cars in the 70s. How many sensors did they have? None. When you look at the other picture, that only shows you how many different sensors you have, because every color is showing you data from different cars. And so what I'm saying is, 50 years ago, nobody could have imagined how many sensors or how these cars will evolve. And that also shows now in architecture of the vehicles. And the architecture of the vehicles, and nowadays we see we have the normal gateway architecture with all these ECUs, but we all know that needs to change, and there is the move already to the domain architecture. And this one actually allows them to combine different functionalities, already to put different sensors in. You reduce the traffic in the network in the cars, and can be even more efficient and more faster reactive to situations that occur. But this will not be the end. I mean, even looking at the software-defined vehicles, we're also seeing that it is moving into the zone architecture. And software-defined vehicles, This is actually where we see then as well that we get benefits out of additional new features, use cases, and so on. What are the benefits? The benefits are for platform providers and also for OEMs, recurring revenues that you can get in with new features, with new data services, and so on. The user or the car driver itself or car owner, he can subscribe to services that he wants to use based on his living situation. Maybe he uses one service this year, next year his living situation changes and he doesn't need it anymore. So he actually can configure his car with these kind of services. Then you have the normal over-the-air, I would call it already the normal over-the-air updates, where you have bug fixes, for instance, but also, now I come to this, new features. And new features, at the moment, we're looking always into, okay, new features we put on these platform computers, and then we use all the data that we still got from the sensors. But this is a different topic in my point of view and also in our point of view in AI. Because we see that sensors need adaptability. Why? Because you have so many different use cases, for instance, for these objects. Look at the first picture where you see the highway. The second picture is an urban area, the typical child situation, or on country roads when you see deers. And sensors need to get data there for these special situations. And not that you define one sensor that can get everything. That is what we don't see at the moment. And so the same is for road obstacles. Sometimes you have big trucks on the street, otherwise you have just small things where you can maybe even overdrive them. You need to make the decisions in the software for overrideability. And the weather. I mean, how often have you seen, and most of you probably have also the ADAS systems in their cars, and what is happening in winter? In winter, when I go on the streets where there's a lot of snow and the mud from the snow and so on, I get a lot of times that my ADAS system is malfunction now, and I need to take over. And for this, you cannot have that in a self-driving car later on. And you need also here to find solutions that the sensors then are still acting and still giving the data that the car can continue to go. So we as AEye, we were thinking about a new or different architecture to be more adaptable. And that means not only like in software, it means also that the hardware needs to be as modular that you can control it. If you look at the left side, you see this kind of, we call it traditional way of implementation. And we see this as when you create a sensor or you define a sensor, you have a certain set of parameters that you define it for, and also maybe special use cases. But then comes the point in time when you need to lock the requirements, and then you put the sensor together. And at the end, if you need to get more information out of it, to change use cases, you all leave it up to this perception software, computing software. Our approach is different. We have put together this modular architecture, like scanner, receiver, laser, and so on. And we can control them separately. For instance, as you see it here with the perception software, if we get feedback from a perception software that we should put the focus on a different area of our Lidar, then we can do that immediately. Another way where that helps, even thinking in a traditional development sequence, is that, for instance, when you have the development phase of a system, when you have a, let's say, locked sensor, your perception team comes back later on and says, or your software development team says, oh, I need these data different or this data different. And then what happens is they need to find ways around it or need actually to have the use case they wanted to implement a little bit with less performance. With our approach, you still can change it. You still can put other data in, or provide other data because you have reconfigured the sensor. You can do that over the air, or also during, let's say, operation time. Yeah? For instance, you can use map data, and with these map data, you can determine, okay, I'm in an urban area, I need a different characteristics, and as in an area outside of a town. And you could also take the weather, yeah? Then you also put a different characteristic that you get the correct data. And for instance, speed. And for this, I want to show you an example a little bit even more. If you look at the left, or from your side, yeah, the left picture, you see this kind of brown area. That is the wild field of view. And the green area, we call it the region of interest, where we even put a little bit more focus on. As you see, we have here, if you look at the top and the bottom, you have still a lot of brown area. So actually, this is the area where we're getting data back. We could use now the speed of the car as the trigger. And the speed would be, you get over like a certain threshold, maybe 60 kilometers per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, and then you switch it. So basically, you don't need, when you go faster, you don't need the data very close to your car. If you give these data to your software, you just give data that the software will throw away. And other data, where they actually need maybe more resolution or so on, you cannot provide. We can do that because we changed this field of view. And so that's what you see then on the right picture, that on the top and the bottom, we don't give the data anymore, and we increased even this region of interest. And the wider field of view is also a little bit smaller. And here, basically, we trying to replicate, simulate human behavior, how humans also looking in these situations. Because when you go on a highway, you usually don't go and drive like this. You drive like this and look in the front, like what is happening 200 meters in front of me, 300 meters in front of me. But if you go in an urban area, maybe where you're only allowed like to drive 30, 40, 50 kilometers per hour, then you don't look like 200 meters. No, you look if there are kids coming or other traffic crossing you and so on. So you need, your eye is actually also getting more data around you. And this is what we see and what we do with our sensor, that we putting this kind of idea behind this, that we really want to act like our human eye. Here you see some examples how you can do it. I don't want to go through everyone. Only the first one, the focus on the narrow lane. You see it a little bit brighter in the middle. So there we actually getting more data back. And one very, the complete opposite is the right picture, where you see the uniform focus for the parking area and the parking mode. And this is just an example. I have later on as well a small, nice video. You will see that there as well. How can we do it? Or what are we doing here actually? What we do is we can really control every shot of the laser of our Lidar system. And this is what you see here. For instance, on the top, the sky. We don't need data from the sky. So we put there the lowest resolution that's possible, or even none. And we focus here. This is the famous highway use case I already was mentioning to you. There where you see in the middle, I'm putting maximum resolution and power so that I really can also see obstacles far away and already start determining any actions in the perception software. How can we do it, or why are we so flexible? And the secret is in our architecture. We have a biostatic architecture. That means we decouple transmit and receive passes. And that allows us to run an almost fire and forget strategy on the transmit path. And this is also helping us to actually reacting on data that we already receive. So we actually remove the latency that you have to send out the light and receive it if you have a monostatic architecture with one optical path. The question now you will probably ask, so how can you be then so fast? And the reason is we're using very, very small MEMS. We're using the smallest MEMS in the industry that has a very low mass, and this allows us to operate these MEMS very, very quick and also to be robust versus shock and vibration. The shock and vibration band of the automotive industry, you see the blue line, and the bigger the mass of your MEMS, the more on the right side you are. That means the more measures you need to put in place to get your LiDAR system robust enough. And we are operating outside of this, as you see. This is the green area. So we will now ask, okay, so interesting thoughts, interesting technology, how are you actually producing it? And the easy answer is, as AEye, we don't. But we're partnering with Continental. So we are working very, very close. We see us as the technology provider for Continental. We are already in the phase that we have production involved and that we getting this in an automotive quality. So, and as you see, we provide our technology, our architecture and everything to Conti, and Conti is taking this, putting it in automotive development processes, in the validation and functional safety, manufacturing, and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, saying this, I have a nice video for you where you can see already data from our product that we put together with Continental in action. I would say enjoy. We are providing with this technology. Box. This is a tire. The tire has a very low reflectivity, and it's one of the hardest things to detect, but it's actually the most use case. That's what we can detect with more than 200 meters. Now you see it on the different trigger inputs. Yeah, so that's basically about the technology of our sensor. I started my presentation with, let's say, summary and thoughts on the complexity in our world, the traffic and the vehicles. And let me also finish it with some thoughts on the validation. And actually, I was very happy to hear today already some of the presentations that were dealing with this topic. Because I also believe at the moment that it's not only sensor related, that is for every self-driving car and also for every software-defined car the case. We haven't found the right way of validating. And just want to give these kind of two examples. We know this traditional way here where we let cars driving millions of kilometers in complete different areas of the world to collect as much data as possible. Then you put them on a hill system, and when you have new software updates or so, then you will replay it there. And if the functionality performs in these boundaries of the collected data, you put it on the vehicle. Then you also can do some special performance tests, sure, for special functionalities. But the advantage on this is you have a very deterministic behavior, but there's a big but in the boundaries of the collected data. And you don't know what you will see and face in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So this is then actually, you will not cover the real world. And we heard that in a couple of presentations today as well. The other approach is to have cars, and even in the presentation of the person who was on the stage before me, you saw that you put vehicles on a street as an agent, and these vehicles collecting also these kind of unforeseen situations, data that you can also use to validate software, that you can use to improve your software and so on. Big advantage is you will also catch situations that you don't think of when you do the definition of test cases. But there's also a lot of regulations there, and we had that as well today already about how regulations, let's say, influence innovations. And also here, I think the whole industry and also politicians, and that is a worldwide topic, need to get together to find the right approaches. I think nobody has found the holy grail yet, but I think that is something that we in the whole industry need to do, because otherwise self-driving cars will not be accepted by users or by people to drive. And with these kind of thoughts, as I said, I don't have also the answer for this, but with these kind of thoughts, I would like to close my presentation now. I thank you very much for your attention here. And I'm very happy to answer any questions. You can also visit us at our booth in the next room there. So, and there we can also answer any questions that you maybe get later on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for Andreas? Okay, I have yet another specific question that I'm going to ask. So you talked about sort of testing and validation of these systems, just 2 slides back. So for functional testing of the Lidar system, to actually ensure that you're able to accurately see objects at, we'll say, several hundred feet away, what's the approach that is used for the functional testing of the package sensor?
I mean, we have several different kind of tests set up. Yeah? We have tests in a lab where we really put an artificial environment together. Then you also have the industry standards where you put 10% reflectivity targets on special ranges, and then we increase that. But also, we're going as well right away with the sensors, when we have them, maybe a few weeks, 2-3 weeks later already, when we do that in parallel, we also go there and do performance testing on roads and on test tracks and so on. We put different obstacles on the field, like the tire. Yeah, the tire is the most complicated one actually at the end. Also passenger or pedestrians or other vehicles. So all these kind of different tests. And then also very special tests for the laser and everything. So
sure, that's down at like the component level. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so these are big ranges that you put objects in to do the functional testing, and then you take it outside.
That is like 400, 500 meters. Yeah. And we also having different kind of perception software, something very artificial for really like lab tests, but also other that we can use already in the car, so that we really can determine what is maximum possible, but also what is real world possible. So that we really get the feeling and the data and can see how good can we get to the maximum with real world environment.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Oh, we have a question right here.
I have a question regarding your approach towards scanning. Is it compatible with both TOF and FMCW, or is it specifically the TOF?
We have a TOF system. Question, what do you mean? I mean, I know about the FMCW technology, I know that, but I don't know what is the question.
Oh, is the method, your MEMS technology approach that you're taking, is it?
That is time of flight.
It can be used for FMCW as well? Not that thing? No, it's not. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. All right, are we ready to go network and break a little bit? Oh wait, we have to talk about we got to talk about challenging each other. So, please, thank you. One more round of applause.